Welcome to Health, Wealth, Wisdom Parents Edition Super Summit. Your host for this session is Patrice Porter. She is the creator of programs such as Got Dirt, Gardening for Kids, and Fabulous Family Futures. She is also a #1 best-selling author. Welcome your super host, Patrice.
Well, welcome back again. And this time around, we have with us Dr. Ali Lancameri, and he is the actual organizer and host. I'm sure if you've been attending, you've been watching him all along, and known as the Parent Whisperer. And you will see why that is as we go in here. He's also a neuro neuroscientist or surgeon was. I get that mixed
Science.
up. Okay,
No
and had
knives, no knives.
award-winning,
I don't deal with knives
yeah,
except in the
yeah,
kitchen.
and the award-winning practice. And today he wants to speak to us about role modeling hope, how to teach the next generation about living with purpose. Very important topic. Dr. L, welcome. You tell us more about your background and bringing these programs and serving families and what it is that you want to bring to our next generation, why it's so important that they learn how to live with purpose.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Patrice, and thank you for interviewing me. It always, just for our audience members, it always like dawns on me last minute that I need somebody to interview me as well. Usually the rest of it is pretty easy, but then I'm like laughing, like, who's going to interview me? So I'm really appreciative that Patrice stepped up to interview me. So a little bit of background about myself and why I'm so passionate about family advocacy. Um, Going back, I about, what was it, 12 years? No, 15 years ago now. Yeah, 15 years ago. I traveled to my home country originally where I'm from, which is Iran, after not being there for 37 years. And I really didn't want to go back because of obviously everything that you hear in the news and the fact that I left for a reason. That reason still remained. Now, long story short, I went there, and what ended up happening is everybody in the hometown of where my parents are, they knew me. They knew who I am. They knew my family. And the more I listened to what all the people had to say, I realized that for 4 generations, my family has been known for their strong sense of value when it comes to families and education. And, I have people who were educators. I had people that worked on social development. I had people that worked on, like my grandfather himself was known for opening his doors and having people stay with him the entire 3 months of summer, basically, and just like family, basically. And so I realized that I have 4 generations of people investing in family to where I have gotten to where I am today. So it dawned on me that if I would not carry the torch, if I would not be an advocate for family and its importance, then who would? Right? So that it became a sense of purpose for me. But let me backtrack for you about why this talk in the first place, because this talk, the origin of it actually started when I was in high school going into college. And as we know, many people, how many of you guys have worked with kids, especially teenagers? And one of the questions that is often asked by both the education system as well as the family and friends is, what are you going to do when you grow up? What do you like? What is the field of study, right? So everybody is focusing on the field of study or the tool, in other words, by which you mean to impact the world. Right. So if you're a doctor, you're going to impact the world by treating sick people. If you're a lawyer, you're going to impact the world by fighting for justice or whatever it happens to be, right? So that's the question. And then when you get to college, again, it's the same thing. Choose a major. What are you going to major in? What are you going to minor in? What's going to be happening after these 4 years, right? So again, the focus is on narrowing down on the tool and sharpening that tool and making sure it is more specific for the purpose. But at no time
Right.
do we actually talk about the actual purpose. Like, all right, so you're going to choose a tool that you're going to be a doctor or you're going to be a lawyer, but then for what purpose? There are plenty of doctors, I know that from experience, that simply go to medical school just so that they can have an easy life, which is false, by the way. There's plenty of doctors that go there so that they can make lots of money. Again, the business focus. There are plenty of people that go there to help people. So there's different purposes. And here I am, a consultant to United Nations, but a physician from my background. So
Yeah.
different purposes. But we don't have that conversation with our kids. And I went through a period of depression in undergrad when everybody kept asking me, what are you going to do when you grow up? What are you going to major? I knew that I wanted to be a doctor, but even that, the foundation of it was a little bit shaky. But the main thing is every day I would wake up and the question of what are you going to major in and how are you going to schedule your next semester's classes was a big burden on me. And I had this huge amount of depression about the fact that I didn't have a way. I felt like I knew where I was going until somebody asked me. And then the moment they asked me, it just vanished. It was so nebulous. It just was a puff of air and just disappeared, basically. And I
Right.
was left wondering, what am I going to do? How am I going to spend the 4 years? And, what people typically do in that situation is they start having conversations with different people. So you talk to your counselor, you talk to family members, and everybody gives their input of what you should do or what they think is important or what your assessment tests and evaluations show that you would be good for. But ultimately, it's other people's inputs. Even if you say, hey, you know what? Like nowadays, the word influencer is in the kids' vocabulary. What are you going to do when you grow up? I'm going to be an influencer. What are you going to do when you grow up? I'm going to be a millionaire. Great. What are you going to do with your influence? What are you going to do with the million? Right. So that's the question that is not talked about. And that conversation really needs to start early on, sometimes as early as when the kids are learning to say no. It's not a bad thing that they say no. They're actually exercising self uh, autonomy, right? But if you don't nurture that and say, no, you have to follow what I say and you have to do as I say, yes, boundaries are important, but also watching and observing them as far as what their preferences are, what they say no to is equally important during their terrible twos that early. So
Yeah.
the process of asking the kids, like, what do you like about this? How was your day? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? When you present toys or subject matters, engaging their engagement basically in on the topic is very important, and being able to nurture it. But as I mentioned during um, the title of my talk is role modeling hope, because there's a lot of people that they focus on health, they focus on relationships, or they focus on wealth, but there's this other factor called hope, and it's oftentimes overlooked. The moment that you lose direction, you lose hope. So what I mean by this is, how many of you identify with um, setting a goal, achieving the goal, and then shortly after downplaying your achievement or saying, okay, well, now what? Right?
Yeah.
If you have pursued things, whether it's career, degrees, running a marathon, whatever it is, after you run the marathon, it's like, okay, well, I feel great that I ran the marathon. Now what? Right? So that
Yeah.
moment where you don't have purpose, you start losing that hope. It's a downer. And even if you're happy from the marathon, from the achievement, you still end up coming down. So, how do you continue to sustain that? And what if you didn't achieve? Because for many people, that's the bigger issue in their mind, that I didn't
Yeah.
achieve. And now the goal becomes an obsession, right? And that's what they're focusing on. which actually takes you to a higher level, but then the higher the you go, the longer the fall, right? So the hope becomes really, really important. And for many times we listen to the outside for advice, for direction, for input, and we start incorporating that. So we start, um, you know, adopting other people's values, other people's visions, other people's purpose as our own. And that's why a lot of people in corporate jobs are unhappy because you are fulfilling somebody else's vision. And
Yeah.
if you agree with it, that's great. But if you don't agree with it, then that's a handcuffs. It's a jail sentence for you that you have to show up at 9, you have to clock out at 5, and it no longer is about your hope, it's your fulfillment, right? So that does happen. But I want to go back to also the model that where you actually figure out what your purpose is, but you set a goal and you achieve it. How many of you remember kids that, you sit in the car and they're super excited because they're going to the cousin's house or whatever it is. And as you're driving there, they're like, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" They're
Yeah.
anticipating it, right? They're super excited. And they're like, "Come on, let's go, let's get there." Then you get there and 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes into it, like, "I'm bored," or "Mom, when are we going to go home?" Or like they start asking questions like, "I thought you wanted to come
Right.
here. Like, now here we are. Now you want to go home." Like, so I ask this is because anticipation is greater than realization, and that anticipation is the hope. But what happens is a lot of times we end up having false hope or false senses of purpose because we adopt other people's visions and purposes and values. So, role modeling hope means living authentically with who you are. I'm going to fast forward from the undergrad years where I had that depression to the time where I was very successful in my private practice. Medical schools and different organizations and management and consulting companies were coming to me saying, "Can we send our graduates, our interns to you so that they could see how you're getting the results and how you're running your clinic, basically?" And so I was in a really good place, physician wise, as far as treating patients, recognition and credibility wise, all of those. But then when I decided that I'm going to put that behind because I wanted to reach a broader audience, for about a period of 2 years, I had an identity crisis. Because yes,
Wow.
I achieved success as a physician in my mind, but if I am not treating patients, then who am I? And this is the other part that when you focus and emphasize so much about the tool, the doctor, the lawyer, if you are not a doctor or if you're not practicing law, then who are you? In many parts of the Western society, the focus is so much, especially in the education department, is on getting you to be obedient and building you to fit into a system that the moment that you remove yourself from that system, you lose your sense of identity. And if I am not doing what I was trained to do, then who am I? So for 2 years, I had this identity crisis. And that's where that whole family story happened when I traveled back to Iran and came back. I realized that this is something that it's not just about health, but all things related to family. And that became not just the new career, the new path for me, it became my retirement plan, right? And nobody has to give me incentives. I don't have to get paid to do it, although I do get paid, and it's wonderful to be in that position. But and I don't have to look for retirement because this is what I want to do for the rest of my days. All right. So
Yeah.
wouldn't you want your kids to be self-motivated? Wouldn't you want kids to be driven? Wouldn't you want kids to be authentic? Wouldn't you want kids to make this world a better place and gain the recognition for doing so? Or even if they didn't, still they knew that that was their purpose and they did what they came here for, right? So to do that, are you role modeling hope? Are you role modeling that? Are you living in accordance with your purpose? And beyond your career, beyond your title as the wife or the mother or the doctor or whatever it happens to be, who are you? And at the end of every day, my tip for you is ask yourself, Did I live authentically today? So all the times that you said yes, all the times that you said no, was that yes authentic, or was it because that's the polite thing to do? Or did you, if you said no, did you say no because that would be the impolite thing to do? Or did you say no because the social pressures or whatever? Or was it truly what was in your heart? And practicing that and getting aligned with, like, okay, well, if I said no and it wasn't authentic, well, why was it? What is authentic to me? And going through that process helps you rediscover yourself. And we kind of lose that as we age because we've had more of these voices imprinted on us, right? So it is
Yeah.
very important for us to do that. Nowadays, especially the way kids are brought up, as soon as they're able to participate in kindergarten, as soon as they're able to be part of, you know,
And
athletics programs and clubs, they're placed in those without consideration of whether that is the right thing for the kid or not. And many times we say, well, we're doing this so that they can try this out. But oftentimes, what you end up seeing is that people really get good at trying something out. I certainly was. I was good at a lot of different things. I built a race car. I raced cars, and
oh my goodness.
but just, but just because you're good at something doesn't mean it's your calling. And many times when the parents see that a child is very good and talented and has a gift, it's very difficult to respect their boundaries and respect their wishes and their desires as to whether they want to pursue that. So what typically happens is these kids go through all the way till they get to the adolescent years, and they are really shining and they're all star and everything and they're getting the attention. And then all of a sudden they just drop it because that's the age where they start to develop their sense of identity, what they want to continue to pursue, and they drop it. And what is even more heartbreaking is that when they drop this, instead of being cherished for their ability to set aside all these voices and identify who they are, and standing up for being an upstanding person and representing who they are, a lot of times they either get scolded or they get less attention or they're faced with disappointment from those people around them that up until now were encouraging them for quitting something. So we
Yeah.
need to make sure that that hope and that sense of purpose is nurtured with kids. And it is something that if you can do that for yourself, and I know it is very difficult, I went through it multiple times trying to figure out who I am. Uh, but that living authentically with yourself every single day is the best thing you can do for your kids so that they can put themselves first, so that they can understand that they matter and that they can live authentically, and that when they do live authentically, they have the power to change the world, whether they achieve their goal or not. Because hope is a process, purpose is a process, it's not a destination. So every day live with hope, every day live with purpose, and that process, being a role model to your kids, will have the most profound effect in their happiness, which will translate into their health as well. So imagine living a life that is healthy, happy, and hopeful as a result.
And this has really changed my perspective. Yeah, I often, it seems more when you're adults, identity crisis or whatever, but you know, becoming your authentic self and uh, you know, living with purpose. But yes, you do that, find that in yourself. But I never thought about that. When you're constantly asking the kids, what are you going to be? Uh, what do you want to take when you go to at university or what do you want to become? And how it actually can be detrimental to the child development that they're not
Yeah,
just
Ruth
being
said it
able to
perfectly.
develop to
Nobody comes
become.
to this world wanting to harm their kid. It's just this inadvertent desire to do good and push based on your experience that we have to always respect the other person's space to exist, basically. And you have to provide that space for yourself to exist as well.
And the importance of the role modeling it, because really, the kids, even as teenagers and that, when they're going to live what they see. And if they've never been exposed to that, if they have no idea, they don't know what it is to be able to live authentically and live with purpose, and I know it becomes more difficult as they become teenagers because they're looking more to their peers then. So even like starting earlier, and
So I wanted to actually pose a couple of questions for our audience members. I know that we always encourage you to participate and give us feedback. Mike, Ruth, thank you for the comments that you're putting in the chat. But these following three questions are for you. Ask yourself these questions. The first question that ask yourself is, are you happy with where you are in your health? The second question is, are you happy with where you are in regards to your relationships and those who are around you? And then the last question is, are you happy doing what you do every day? These are for yourself, but to live authentically, if the answer to any of these is no, there is no judgment there. And you please make sure that you don't judge yourself for it neither. You are who you are. You have to accept yourself, right? But asking yourself these three questions, if there is something that is uneasy for you or not where you want it to be, then naturally the next question is, well, how can it be more healthy? How can you have a more authentic relationship? How can you have the more of the kind of people that you would like around you? How can you have the kind of job or the kind of activities that fulfill you, right? And those things will enable you to start moving in that direction of authenticity. And as you evolve as a human being, obviously those things are going to change. So there is a moment where I'm very healthy, I'm very happy with where I am with my health, but then a few years later, not so much so, because your health changes with aging and there are new factors in your life that might be new stressors. So you have to adjust to it. So this is something that you do on a regular basis to gauge yourself. And I love the fact that you guys are putting all these information there, committing to this, but also do reflect on it for yourselves as well, and make sure that um, if you're happy with that, that also means that you're authentic about your relationships, right? Or if you're authentic about your health. So for me, if I need to take advice from somebody, I go looking for somebody who is authentic in that particular department. So in this particular case, Mary, I would love to hear what you do for your health. Right? I would love to know what you're doing for your relationships because you obviously have certain things about your relationships that defines what happy relationships means to you. And if I can identify with those values, then naturally I'm much more likely to adopt what Ruth is doing regarding her health, or Mary's doing regarding her health or regarding her relationships, right? So, so that's the thing. I know we're coming at time, Patrice, so let me quickly talk about our gift because I forgot all
yeah.
about it. So when I started on this journey about 7 years ago, I took recap of things that happened after the post identity crisis after I left private practice. And I put it into a chapter. It's part of a book called The Game Changer, and it's volume 4. But I actually took the chapter and presented that as a gift for my followers and my audience members, basically. And it was titled as The Dreams Are Like White Fluffy Clouds. So that's the title of the chapter. And the team can give you the link. Thank you, Silverio, for putting that in there. So that is the gift that I have for you guys. If you liked what I just talked about and you want to read a little bit more about the details of it, grab that gift. It's an easy read, short, but it says a lot about my past and how I got to where I am today and that story. Also, regarding hope, if I was talking and at some point you started disconnecting, or you started thinking this sounds too complicated, or you answered those three questions and the answer to some of them were no, well, then I invite you as a VIP attendee to come and join my Hopeful Living Challenge, which will be starting in November. So if you are part of the VIP, you will be gifted that, and I will be sending you the information regarding starting with us in November for a period of about 6 weeks or so that you can focus on what it means to lead a hopeful life. And I am hoping that the result of that challenge is that you start 2026 with lots of brightness and sunshine in your life and lots of things to look forward to.
Beautiful, Dr. L. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Absolutely. And thank you, Patrice, for hosting this. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing session from the Health, Wealth, and Wisdom Parents Edition. For the recordings of all sessions, plus an amazing VIP bundle, upgrade to VIP now. If you run into any problems during the summit, email our support team at admin@rolemodelmaker.com. Stay tuned, we have another fantastic guest coming right up.